What's going on, everybody? It's the Bulls Show, aka Aiden, and welcome back to another video. Ladies and gentlemen, today we're going to be discussing, I guess, 3 questionable trades in which the Chicago Bulls could do to get this team a little bit over the line. Now, at the end of the day, this was an article that was recommended to me by a subscriber, so thank you very much to the person that recommended it to me. We're going to be discussing some of these trades and discussing whether or not I think they personally make us better or not, and whether or not we should maybe pursue some of those trades or not as well. But before we get started, please like and subscribe to the Bulls Show, turn notifications on, and let me know in the comments below your thoughts about the Chicago Bulls and whether or not we should be pursuing some of these trades if we were to make one of them happen or some of them happen. And yeah, I'm not seeing all these trades. Again, I haven't read the full article. I'm actually going to try to go into this with an open eye. I have seen the first one though, ladies and gentlemen. So moving into that first one, it's going to be a trade with the Dallas Mavericks in which the Chicago Bulls will get Josh Green and 2 second-round picks, and the Dallas Mavericks will get Coby White. Now, Coby White, I feel like you're going to see Coby White a lot in this article. I don't actually know, but I just have a slight feeling because everybody wants Coby White to get traded, it looks like, at this point in time. But I've always said I like Coby White. I think Coby White could be good for us. And I honestly don't know if we're actually going to see Coby White traded or not. But let's dive into what Josh Green can bring to the Chicago Bulls team. So, Josh Green's season averages, looking at it from here, he averages 4.8 points per game, 2.4 rebounds, 1.2 assists, shooting 50.8% from the field and 35.9% from the three-point line. This is the only trade that I've actually looked at, so that's how I got the stats up so quickly. And what I have to say about Josh Green, coming into the league, I'm fairly certain he was known as a 6'6", 3-and-D type of player. So 35.9% from the three-point line seems fairly good, but he's not exactly the offensive player that Coby White is. Even in Coby White's inconsistent performances, it looks like he's doing a lot more than what Josh Green is doing with the Dallas Mavericks. Josh Green actually got 15, I think, minutes per game for the games that he played in terms of the Dallas Mavericks, and he did play 67 games. So I think that's enough to really dissect what Josh Green can do offensively and defensively. And I feel like you're just swapping a player that's better defensively in Josh Green compared to Coby White, who is probably better offensively. I think he's probably much better offensively than what Josh Green would be. But to be fair, looking at Coby White's defensive rating, I actually think Coby White's defensive rating is higher than Josh Green's as well. But the most intriguing thing for me is the 2 second-round picks. I think that's where you really consider this deal, because I've seen what the Bulls, we've seen what the Bulls could do with second-round picks. And the fact that we kind of got rid of one with the tampering situation, you can get 2 in return for Coby White, who originally was probably rumored to get just 1 second-round pick. That's where I think this deal is going to potentially be a good one for many people. I think Josh Green would be a better defender, and I think Coby White's the better offensive player, despite what defensive rating thinks. Despite the defensive rating, I do obviously think that's not everything in terms of an NBA player. I don't think a defensive rating necessarily means you're a better defender. You could be just around better defensive players that help you defensively as well. So I think Josh Green is going to be a better defender. Again, he's a little bit taller. He probably suits what we want to do in terms of versatility a little bit more on the defensive end. He's from Australia. He's the same age as Coby White as well. But the 2 second-round picks, I can honestly say I would not mind doing this deal just for those 2 second-round picks, and we get a player in return as well. The real question is, would the Dallas Mavericks do this? And that's where I think there's a bit of an issue. I don't think Dallas Mavericks would do this, in all honesty. But they could use, I guess, a better scoring guard, and Coby White could definitely be that on the Dallas Mavericks, and he could get more opportunities on the Dallas Mavericks than he would for the Chicago Bulls in terms of maybe starting as well. So, all in all, I would consider it for 2 second-round picks, but in terms of the player for player, I think we have the better player in Coby White, and maybe we could do better than this offer. But 2 second-round picks, it's very, very hard to turn down. So let me know in the comments below what you think. Personally, I would really consider this, but I wouldn't necessarily be 100% in on this as well. I think it just depends on the day, really depends on how I feel at that moment. And I know Coby White has his flaws, has his inconsistencies, but I do feel like 2 second-round picks, I think that could be a good deal for the Chicago Bulls as well, knowing that we might have to pay Coby White a lot of money in the future if he has a great year. Definitely something to consider. But moving into the next one, ladies and gentlemen, Initial reactions here, and I'm actually a little bit stunned. So the Bulls get Terrence Ross and 1 second-round pick, and the Magic, who we'll be trading with in this trade scenario, would get Coby White and Tony Bradley. If you guys don't know me, I think most of you would know I'm a huge fan of Terrence Ross. Terrence Ross is one of those players that's always intrigued me since I started watching in the NBA. And I know Terrence Ross is very similar to Coby White in terms of inconsistency. And I think there are some games where he can absolutely go off, be the best player on the team, go crazy, do some incredibly good athletic things, and score from fairly well from the three-point line. I think his season averages was 10 points per game with 2.6 rebounds, 1.8 assists, 39.7% from the field, but only 29.2% from the three-point line. Again, the inconsistencies show with Terrence Ross. I really do like Terrence Ross, though, to be fair. In my opinion, Tony Bradley's probably the non-factor in this trade. I think that's just try to get the equivalent or make this trade fairly even to give away Tony Bradley. But personally, I wouldn't mind Tony Bradley on this team either. I think as much as I like Terrence Ross, I probably wouldn't do this trade because one, at least with Josh Green, you're getting a player with the same age and still has some sort of development in his game that he can work on. A 21-year-old for a 21-year-old alongside 2 second-round picks. Again, there's assets there for the Chicago Bulls. Terrence Ross, I'm not sure what his contract situation is on, but last time I checked, I think it was a fairly hefty contract. And not to mention as well, he is 31 years old as well, and he's not necessarily scoring better than Coby White. Can he bring a little bit more defensively? He's 6'6". I would say yes, he probably could bring a little bit more defensively, but I personally would not be looking at Terrence Ross as a Coby White replacement, in all honesty. Again, I know we have a lot of guards and we're trying to look for maybe a wing position and a forward position, and that makes sense. But I do think we could probably do better than a Terrence Ross at this point. I think we could probably do a little bit better. Obviously, the second round pick is definitely something that I'm very, very much interested in. But I mean, again, I am a big fan of Terrence Ross. It's hard to say no to Terrence Ross, but I think I'm probably going to have to turn down Terrence Ross this time around. And yeah, that's a bit disappointing in my opinion. That I actually have to say that because again, his previous seasons, he's actually averaged 15 points per game, but this season he's not done very well with 63 games played. And I'm not really too sure why that's the case. I also want to kind of look at his contract situation as well. I'm not too sure I'm not too sure about his contract in terms of when he's going to be a restricted or unrestricted free agent. So just bear with me here. Looking at that, he's going to be an unrestricted free agent in 2023. So another expiring deal as well. Yeah. Personally, I would just say I think we could probably do a little bit better than that, to be honest. As much as I love Terrence Ross, he's 31 years old. I think we could probably go a little bit younger and maybe potentially a little bit better. Let's move into the next trade, ladies and gentlemen. This is going to be with the San Antonio Spurs. Very, very interesting here. The Bulls will get Josh Richardson, and the Spurs would get Coby White and Marko Simonovic. Coby White has been linked to the Spurs for a while, in my opinion. I feel like a lot of the Spurs players are actually linked with Chicago Bulls players for some reason as well. That's a very interesting trade. I think Josh Richardson is by far the best player out of this whole situation. And I know that the San Antonio Spurs want to rebuild, and Josh Richardson is probably not at that age in which he's willing to be on board with a rebuild. I think he would probably want to go play for a winning franchise over, a rebuilding franchise, let's say. And Josh Richardson, I think, brings a little bit more offensively and defensively than most of the other guys. He's 6'5", so he's going to be taller than Coby White. He's 28 years old, so he has a little bit more in the tank than I would say compared to a Terrence Ross type of player. And we've seen him on good winning teams as well. In my opinion, Josh Richardson is one of those glue guys that many people would need on a team. And I think that could definitely make sense for the Chicago Bulls as well. I'm not surprised that Coby White is in all these trade conversations. I can understand the fact that the Spurs got rid of DeJounte Murray to the Atlanta Hawks, so they could need a guard. And I think us giving up Marko Simonovic could be fairly questionable as well. I'm not sure if we'd be willing to do that after how good he was in the Summer League. But Josh Richardson is a guy that, again, it's very hard to say no to Josh Richardson. I think Josh Richardson brings a lot to the table for this team, especially off of our bench. It's really hard to... Oh, man. I don't know why I did this video at this point, man. These are really... I think controversial trades that I think many people would say yes or would say no to some of them as well. Me personally, I think the fact that you have to give up 2 players, and Marko Simonovic, we still have, I think Bulls have a lot of faith in his potential from his first year to his second year. I don't personally say yes to this trade either. That's, again, it's really, really hard, and I don't know what other people would be feeling about the situation. I can understand wanting to give Coby White to the Spurs. I can understand why the Spurs would want Coby White. I can understand why Josh Richardson would want to come to the Chicago Bulls. He's another guy that's on an expiring deal as well. And yeah, I personally would say no. And there's a big reason as to why I would say no to some of them as well. Coby White is a restricted free agent as well. So we kind of have the power in the Coby White trade. We could probably get someone that's a little bit younger and might have a little bit more in terms of contract value, in terms of maybe getting another guy that could be here for multiple years instead of getting someone in for 1 year. You're giving up Marko, who has potential. You're giving up, again, Tony Bradley. Again, that trade I'm not really focused about. I just wouldn't say no because I think Terrence Ross is a little bit too old for us. And I'm not sure he actually brings more than what Coby White would, in all honesty. But just looking at Josh Richardson, I think Josh Richardson is by far the best player in this conversation. But in 1 year's time, he could very much leave the Chicago Bulls, and he probably will, considering he would want a lot of money. We might not have that money to offer. So I would say no. That's hard, but I think that's got to be done as well. Let me know in the comments below what you guys think. Again, these are mostly initial. I saw the first one from the very beginning, and I was able to make my opinion very quickly based on that. I think 2 second-round picks for Coby White could be very interesting, alongside of a player that could be decently defensively. But you're looking at guys like Terrence Ross, who's an unrestricted free agent, will have 1 year left on his deal and probably would want a lot of money. Same with Josh Richardson as well. I feel like in this situation with Coby White, you could get maybe a better player, but even if it's not a better player, you could get better in terms of value and someone that could be here longer term. You got to think about all these things as well. As much as Josh Richardson is by far the best player on this conversation, and as much as we may be willing to give up a little bit like a Marko to go get players like that, you have to ensure these players at least here more than just 1 year. And their contracts suggest that both of them will not be. So I would say no. I would personally say I like the first deal better. But at the end of the day, the first deal, you're not getting a better player than Coby White in return. So it's hard to say. It's really, really hard to say. But those are my opinions. Thank you for watching. Please like and subscribe if you're new. I'll see you in another Chicago Bulls video, ladies and gentlemen. Have a wonderful and safe day. Stay safe, stay healthy, stay tuned for more. Take care and peace.